Somebody show me.
Good morning to you. It's Daybreak at I-Fiber 1, 7:40 now. Morning, Spencer.
Good morning.
Got a great guest in the studio, and we are talking IPA Day. And Evan Puckett from Keyhole Valley Brewing is here. KeyholeValleyBrewing.com, as well as on Facebook.com/Keyhole Valley Brewing. Full disclosure here, Evan and I went to high school together, both graduated the same year. So
Wow, that's cool.
That's pretty cool. Good to see you again.
Yeah, nice to see you.
And this is a pretty cool deal. It's IPA Day, so we'll get into that in a minute. But first, tell us a little bit, and everybody, about Keyhole Valley Brewing.
So we've been in business about 2 years, and just brewing out on my wife's family's ranch here in Shelton. Just brewing out of our garage there.
And so one day you decided that you had been drinking enough of other people's beers, and you said, I could maybe do this. Is that kind of how it goes?
Yeah. It's always interested me, like to kind of learn how things are done or how they're made, and started doing some reading and kind of got into it and just decided to try it.
So you can go from, and you have a 1-barrel system, and we were just talking, that's 31 gallons per batch?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Or about 2 big kegs full at a time. So that's a micro or nano brewery, but then you can, of course, you can get up to the giant major companies, and they do tons. Mm-hmm. Is it a difficult process? Is there a lot of science involved in this, or is it a lot of, obviously unfortunately, you got to do a lot of taste testing, I'm sure.
yeah. There's a fair amount of tasting to make sure that what we're putting out is good. But yeah, there is a lot of science behind it. There's developing a recipe and making sure that some of those ingredients are going to go together well between the malted barley and other grains that could go in there, and there's hundreds of varieties of hops available, so it's a lot of combinations that you can come up with.
We were just talking about hops, and Eastern Washington has got tons of hops fields now. It seems like that's really taken off over there because of the climate and the type of land and ground. How different are hops, even on the east side of the mountains, like per region, or is it people that do genetic splicing of hops to create hybrid hops? Or how in depth do these folks get?
There is a lot of that. There's a lot of experimental hops that are being bred in Washington and Oregon, and the hop farmers always have that kind of stuff in rotation, and getting it to some of the breweries that work with them to see if it's viable to use for brewing.
When I was a kid in the old days, we had beer and light beer, right? Non-alcoholic beer. And now there's all these, it's almost become, it's like wine tasting, isn't it? You see kind of the descriptions of these beers, and they can get pretty complex, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
And how does that, do you have any favorites yourself, or any popular varieties? We were talking about IPAs and stuff. Is that a specialty of your brewery, or just one of the types of beers that you have?
It's just one of them that we brew, yeah. I really like most kinds of beer. Not super picky as far as that goes. Yeah. But IPAs are definitely really popular.
How would you describe them? I like Hefeweizens. Are they similar to that? Are they more light and kind of fruity, or how would you describe a typical IPA?
There's a huge range of IPAs. Hefeweizen uses a different kind of yeast that actually winds up giving it a banana or clove flavor sometimes. That's generally not something you're going to want in an IPA. What's popular now is a lot of the hazy IPAs, and they are less bitter than most of the popular IPAs from 5-10 years ago. But they have a lot more hop aroma and flavor, just based on the way they're used in the brewing process.
What about the sour beers? How are those made?
Those can be made a few different ways, but
or is there a certain ingredient that makes them sour? Is it a fermenting thing, or?
It can be both. With the fermentation side, you can use actually a lactic acid bacteria and some other bacteria and yeasts that will give it that sour flavor.
Do people know this? Is this what they're drinking? It's like a big trend, these sour beers. I tried one, and I can't handle them. I'm not a fan.
How long does it take you from initial concept to being able to pour a glass of beer?
Well, if I've already figured out a recipe of what I want to brew, then it's just a matter of having the ingredients on hand, and then on brew day it'll take 6 to 8 hours to actually brew that batch, and then after it's done brewing or boiling, then cool it down and pitch yeast into the fermenter with the beer, and generally that'll be done within a couple weeks.
Okay. So there is some time. I think about. I saw a video article on some old Cougar football guy who now has a winery, and boy, you're putting a lot of faith into what the end product will be, and that's months down the road after things kind of ferment and mix all together. And so it sounds like it's a lot less wait time on those.
It is. Generally, we can turn around most of our beers within a month after brewing them.
Well, on your website, again, at KeyholeValleyBrewing.com, and on Facebook, you can find a link to all sorts of different beers that you have put forth to folks, and lots of high comments and big accolades, and I hear about it all over the place. You said you have one that you're tapping tomorrow at Smoke and Moe's?
Yeah, they've got our Pink Boots IPA, and they'll be tapping that today or tomorrow. And then we've got a couple beers at Rumors Wine Bar in Olympia as well.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming in this morning and telling us a little bit about this. Good to see you again, Evan Puckett from Keyhole Valley Brewing. We'll put the links, of course, in the show notes when we get to this. And there's a lot of different types, it looks like, that you guys have put forth. And one last one. What are the next big trend? What do you like read the beer trade magazines, or what's the next trend that's coming out here?
I do a lot of reading, but I think more barrel fermentation or barrel aging beers are definitely staying strong, as well as the IPAs.
And that's where folks would even get barrels of like old wine barrels or old whiskey barrels and let them sit in there to get even more flavor?
Yep, both of those.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Amazing.
That's cool.
Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah,
good to see you again. Yeah, for sure. 7:48 at I-Fiber 1. Break time now.